welcome to our VPTV series, Behind Every Successful Leader, where we celebrate the power of virtual support in business growth. I'm Holly Copsey, founder of Virtually Priceless and the Visionary VA Circle, and I want to highlight the incredible impact VAs have in making businesses more successful. My guest today is Jenny Powell. Jenny's career has been in sales and sales management, in publishing, recruitment and training. She co-founded Miradorus in 2011, where she's now the sole director and where her main focus is account and project management. Jenny is also a whole brain thinking practitioner, facilitating both individual debriefs and group workshops. So Jenny, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Holly. Pleased to meet you and to talk to you.
Thank you. So can you start off by telling us a little bit more about your business and what you do day to day?
Right. So Miradorus is really in business to accelerate performance and accelerate results for organizations. And we do it through sales development, customer service development, and team development. So the whole brain practitioner, this work that I do really supports and reinforces that. So I work with a range of training consultants across the world. So my main job really is account management. It's looking after clients. It's also developing business. And it's also thinking about where the business is going and what needs to happen in the future. So my day can be very varied. It can be, take today, we're working on a very big project for a client who wants to do virtual training, and we're having to coordinate time zones, trainer availability, different modules of the program, etc. And also factoring in bank holidays and public holidays in all those different countries. And that requires a huge attention to detail. And that's where Sophie, who supports me, comes in and is absolutely brilliant, because this particular project is really quite challenging. So I actually went to Sophie when Sophie and I had our last Zoom call, or several Zoom calls ago. We sat down, I said, look, Sophie, this is what we've got to do. What's the best way of organizing this? And she put together, based on some of our past experience and based on her experience elsewhere, a wonderful sort of master spreadsheet and master plan, which we have built on and which will enable the client to know exactly where we are in the project and for all of us to be on the same page, managing all that version control and all those things. So knowing that level of detail is being looked after, I can make sure I do the overarching account director role, project director role, etc.
Yeah.
So just this morning, that's what I've been involved with before talking to you, as one of the trainers wanted to change their dates, and we've just done that. And Sophie's just taken it on and said, that's okay. I've dealt with it and I've managed it.
Yeah.
And that frees me up to do what I need to do, which is actually being proactive and thinking about what other clients do I need to be talking to, etc.
Yeah. And so how long have you been working with Sophie, and at what point in your journey did you realise you needed to bring in some virtual support?
Probably 2.5 to 3 years. At one stage, when there were two of us working in the business, we did have a full-time support person on site pre the pandemic, when people were in offices much more, etc.
Yeah.
And really, we didn't need somebody full-time because of the size of our business. But what I found 2 or 3 years ago was that I was doing too much of the things that I'm not really very good at and that are really much more support and administrative.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Sophie as, this is an idea. Maybe she's got flexibility. She can work hours to fit me, but also to fit her.
Yeah.
Because she really, her goal in life is museum curation, and that's really what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And at the moment, and for the last 2 or 3 years, she's been able to support me 1 day a week, but not fixed. So there are hours in every day that if I have a crisis, I'll say, can you possibly help? And she'll do that.
Yeah.
And I realized I needed that because I was not doing as much of the proactive and business development as I needed to. And I was spending far too much time doing things that for someone like Sophie, she can do really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But were taking me too long.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Sophie. We had a virtual interview. We had a couple of conversations, and then she started. And between us, we've worked out a way of making it work and of having shared folders and shared Dropbox, all the things that once I'd set her up with a Miradorus account and part of the infrastructure, we were able to communicate in all sorts of different ways, virtually, and at whatever times really suited both of us.
Yeah, fantastic. And that flexibility is absolutely key, isn't it? And as you say, if the hours are there for you when you need them, that's what's really important.
Yeah, and also flexibility for her, because she had a big project for a couple of months, and I knew therefore that she didn't have as much time for Miradorus. However, there were things actually that I took on, but during that time, it kind of coincided with when there wasn't as much requirement for the sorts of work that she was doing.
Yeah.
And now we're back to sort of 1 day a week overall, but it's done on a hourly basis, that however many hours that she takes, that's what she will invoice me for.
Yeah.
And actually, although we're talking about a virtual assistant, having marketing and accounts is actually also how I work. So I have a marketing and an accounts person who support me primarily virtually. And again, they do that on a similar basis, is that I kind of create a list, and then when we have meetings, we go through the list of what needs to be done. So I've been a big advocate of using virtual support for whatever you need. It obviously reduces on sort of fixed costs, and not knowing whether some weeks you need like 1 day and other weeks you don't need any at all. And as long as that's a win-win for both parties, it works fine.
Yeah.
And it has done for me. I've been very lucky with all the support people that I've worked with in that respect.
Yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. So can you tell us a little bit more about the tasks that Sophie does for you? You've mentioned, obviously, you've got this huge logistical challenge with managing things for your client, but what else does she do for you sort of behind the scenes in your business?
Well, there are some things that now we're in this kind of pattern, and it took a few months to get into that pattern. We deliver training programs on a regular basis, whether they are in person or virtual. We always get feedback from those programs. We always send pre-work. We always send follow-up to people who don't complete their feedback. So Sophie is responsible for creating all the feedback links, because these are links so that people can do the feedback. She will then, a week later, when people haven't completed it, she will then follow them up and chase them. She will then collate all that feedback and send that back to me, so that I then double check it. I'll then PDF it and send it to the client. She's doing that on a regular basis. That's just something that she always does. We have a program document that she created. So we've got all the programs that we're running, with all the things that need to happen before, during, and after. And that's side by side with a training consultant diary she keeps up to date. So every Monday when we talk, and it's generally a Monday at the moment, that's what suits her work pattern, we'll go through the program document, and it's all on this Excel spreadsheet. So whatever is in there for that date, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll send out the pre-work. I'll make sure the feedback is done, etc.
Yeah.
Another thing that she does that is really helpful is to continually check our stock levels, because with our training programs, we also provide Miradorus, biros, pads, little slinkies for people to kind of fiddle with so they can concentrate on the training. Clicky bricks, as we call them, all that, what clusters together as kind of paraphernalia. And Sophie keeps tabs on that supplies list. So when we use some, I make sure that I put on the supplies list how many have been taken, and then she will say, we need to order more of this, or we need to order more of that. Those are the sorts of things she does on a regular basis. But we also have an overarching Sophie admin list in which I just put things when I think of them, and then when we talk, they're all together. And even before the pandemic, and in my previous life, that's how I always worked with a support person. Instead of bothering them every half hour and saying, oh, I've thought of this, can you do that? I would always cluster together things that were really useful for us to talk about. And then once a week or however, would sit down and have those conversations. We do try and meet in person every few weeks as well. And sometimes when we're going through things like adapting materials and things like that, it's very useful for us to be together. And geographically, that works for us. It would not be impossible if it didn't work geographically.
Yeah.
But of course, being able to sit down together and go through some of the things, and for me to actually bring a participant workbook and sort of go through it line by line together is quicker quite often. And then there are other times when it's quicker just to do it virtually and to have to set up a Zoom call, which is what we do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we're big advocates for that. We love meeting clients if we get the opportunity. It's not always that frequently, but it's really great to be able to meet in person when the opportunity arises.
Yeah,
definitely. How would you say that, I mean, what's the biggest impact, I guess, been to you personally or on your business of having the support? What's it allowed you to do?
Interesting question, because Sophie is now just a key part of what I do and how I do it.
Yeah.
It's somebody now that she's really got to know the business and she understands what's involved, because it's a different world from what she's used to. However, all the tools that we use, whether it's PowerPoint, Word, Excel, spreadsheet, whatever, she's really, really familiar with. But the biggest gain, I guess, is just knowing that I can put something on that document and I can then forget about it. That I can focus on the areas I need to focus on, and that if it's really urgent, I can WhatsApp Sophie and say, have you got any time today, or in the next 10 minutes, I'm having an IT meltdown, can you possibly help me with this, or something like that. So it's just knowing that she is there to support. And if she can't do something, then that's fine, then I know. But the key thing is the communication. So, and that's something that our training is all about, communication, whether it's communicating in customer service to tell a customer that you can't do something or when you'll be able to do it, as opposed to just not communicating and hoping that it'll go away. The communication between me and Sophie is really very strong. And I think that's a key part of what makes it work effectively.
It's the foundation of any great relationship, right? Good communication is just essential. I love that. So what would you say to any business owners who are hesitant about using virtual support?
Hesitant, it probably depends on why they're hesitant. So there's probably, I try to understand what is it that's making you hesitant. So initially what made me hesitant was probably, am I sure I need this? Should I be doing this myself? And then it's like, no, I do. And then it's, well, you've got to induct somebody into your business. So that might be something that would make people hesitant. Well, they don't understand my business. And by the time I've explained to them how to do it, I might as well have done it myself, which of course is absolutely that's self-defeating, really. So what I would say is, if you have the right person and the right level of communication and trust that person will ask questions if they don't understand, that you don't just give them everything on day one and expect them to get on with it, that you introduce them to something, one thing at a time, and slowly, and then you gradually build up, and their confidence and your confidence in them builds up. There are an increasing number of tasks that you can give somebody. And having that flexibility and knowing that they are able to come on a Zoom or a Teams call when you need them, rather than everybody having to spend 2 or 3 hours commuting, can be a real benefit. So it always depends on the person and the relationship, and that involves work from both sides. So you can't just get somebody and give and just chuck all your things you don't want to do at them and hope it's going to work, because it won't.
It won't. No, absolutely. And that's always my advice as well, is to start small, test the water, and take it slowly. Then just say, build on that trust. It really is key, isn't it? Okay, so if Sophie is watching, which I'm sure she will, what would you like to say to her?
Well, probably things I have said to her in person as well, because
that's good to hear.
Feedback is incredibly important. I think that, what I would say to Sophie is that she knows the relationship we have is very important to me. The trust that I have in her is very important. But I also know that this is not her lifetime career. And I hope that I'm also able to encourage her and help her in getting to what she really wants to do in working in museums. And that seems to be going great guns as well.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to say to Sophie is probably just, I'd love for you to be working and supporting me for as long as possible, but I will be delighted when you say you can't any longer. I'll be delighted for you, but not for me. Because I feel that we've got to know each other very well. We've got to know, you've got to know our business very well. You've given me good suggestions and ideas that have helped improve the processes and what we do in the business. And I really, really value that.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Where's the best place for people to find you if they want to learn more about you and connect with you?
The Miradorus website and Jenny Powell on LinkedIn. So I am on LinkedIn, or the website would be the two.
Super. Well, we'll make sure we share all the links with the post and any details we send out. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And so lovely to hear what a fantastic job that Sophie's doing for you.
You're very welcome. And thank you very much, Holly. And all the best with your business too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.